This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, I'm gonna wait.
Better there than Pelican.
Thanks.
Okay, we are online,
Okay.
and Mr. Greg is online. Scott Charnot's online.
I suspect we're not gonna have anybody else joining us, so I will call the meeting to order. We have with us Randy Bottleson, Teresa Phillips, Doug Zander, Ben Sikorsky, Joe Schofield, and Phil Measy, so we have a quorum. We'll move on to the financial report. Mr. Sikorsky.
Phil, this is John Gregg. Can you allow me to vote?
Oh, I'm sorry, yep. Sorry, forgot that. Can we have a motion to allow John to vote?
I'll make a motion that we let John vote.
Okay, a second? Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
John, you're not a bad guy. We'll let you vote.
Well, I just handed out or had emailed to you the financials provided to me by Scott, who's on vacation. So we're not going to pay attention to you today, but I see you're there. The fiscal, it was for May. So we're on the 1.42 million. Net income of 110,000. So so everything's on track. And more importantly, the second spreadsheet I gave you is the proposed budget of 1.45 million to us. And in turn, there's explanations in the column on the right-hand side. And as Phil brought up at the last meeting, which I've given thought to it, I agree. He sent me a copy of the last letter we sent to our residents in Pelican, explaining the major changes. So I'm going to work with Phil and the board, put that letter together to get the key points. We see the increases, explain to our residents.
I had some discussion. Stephen Blue, email back and forth. Turns out the process is very complicated. Hard to explain.
Well, I think if we stay with the key areas
Yeah.
where our bigger expenditures are,
Yep.
That'll give our residents knowing that this is coming. And, you know, with today's increases, we're within, I think, the percent are reasonable. And we'll put that letter out. We'll probably, again, like to see it go out when.
Well, one of the final numbers.
Well, the final budget numbers that are going out in the letter to the residents and that were set at that June 10th meeting. And there'll be a notice will go out next week from the property appraiser with that mark. Just approve a final budget until the night of that public hearing on August 19th. So between now and then, you can make any adjustments that you want, as long as they're downward. You've approved at your top of mark, or moving items between, but that bottom line can't go higher. And the board will be doing the same thing.
So we can probably target getting them out.
That way you could submit that information, then it's already plugged into the budget that'll be presented, at the public hearing on the 19th. And you won't have to get up and say, please take this out, please add this in. It'll already be done and approved by PPAC, and the board will just approve it.
I think we are pretty well done.
I agree.
We agreed to the budget the last time. It is a substantial increase. It'll be about over 6%, depending upon whether you're in a multi-family home or a single family home. But I think we agreed that, the only place that I think we could affect it is to fiddle with reserve, our allocation to the reserve, and I don't think we want to do that.
No, reserves are important.
And I think we need to have the discipline every year to put money into that reserve, so the 365,000 we're putting in should be okay.
Well, in turn, I want to mention that talking to Julie, greatly appreciated Chris's hard work. Lori with CDD. We've turned the accounts from Florida Power and Light over to the CDD. So we're going to save 6.5% Florida state sales tax on those invoices. There was an issue with the street lighting one because of the meter account, but I understand talking to her, that's been resolved. And I wanted to ask you, Chris, what's the status on Securitas?
The Securitas contract, I believe they're getting ready to bid that out. I'd have to check with them, but I know Tony was finalizing it and it was supposed to be bid out at the beginning of this month.
Okay.
Chris
So-
or Scott, do you have any word on that?
Thank you. I do not have any update as far as emails from Tony, and so we're going to have to reach back out to him to see if that has been completed and the posting has gone out.
Good. So, we're going to put, my estimate was around 26,000 bucks back into our coffers, which will carry forward. And we'll watch future contracts too, to make sure that if we can have, as being part and parcel of a government entity that gets the exemptions,
Right.
we should be part and parcel of it,
Yeah.
right? Unfortunately, we can't go back 3 years and say to the state, hey, can you give us that money back? They won't allow us to do that because the invoicing was generated through Pelican Preserve. All right?
Well, but at least we've caught it now, so going forward will be.
Well, going forward, yes. And are there any other questions?
I have one.
Go
I'm looking at some of the contracts, like Ameriscape as an example. Seems like a lot of these contracts have increase. Is that built into the original contract? Because all of my contracts in the Ponds Group, we have no increase. Every year it's the same as it was the year before with our contractors. We don't build those increases in. Am I doing it wrong? Or has Bob done that? But because our contracts, a lot of them haven't increased for 10 years. And what I'm saying is they're the same type of, when you look at spraying the pond banks and throwing chemicals into the pond, those are the same type of things that would be done with Ameriscape, I call them the low skill labor type thing. And next year's contract's the same as this year's contract from an expense standpoint.
Yeah, that would depend if you were, if they've added things on or the services with the Meriscape or areas.
Or is that just a standard increase type thing, the 3%?
We've picked up additional properties that.
Right, but that wouldn't be the 3% increase, right? Or would that be in the 3% increase?
I would
Chris?
assume, I'll let Chris,
Chris can address that.
I don't want to assume.
Chris Santos, Castle Management. I can confirm those 3% increases are written into the contracts with Ameriscape as an annual increase.
Okay.
Well, if we are, I guess as we negotiate those contracts, we can look at leaving those numbers flat.
That's what we do.
I guess I'm amazed that they can do that.
Well, Bob is a pretty tough negotiator. No, he really is.
Yeah. Well, we should, as we look forward to the Securitas contract, we can, as we bid that out.
Right.
We can look at that. Yes, that's one of the provisions.
And sometimes when you get vendors that are working in the area and all of a sudden they pick up a contract someone else has had, there's really an economy of scale for them to keep that price flat because they're already mobilized in the community. Their vehicles are here. They aren't having to send a separate crew in. And we've seen that with some of the ponds work.
Right.
I'm just amazed that, just look at gas increases. Why any contractor?
Or labor too.
On labor.
Labor costs. I
I
mean, they're
agree.
gonna have to pay those people more that
Mhm.
work.
And I know,
Sorry.
I know Bob.
Wake up.
is a good negotiator, but, you know, it depends on the
It's
vendor
gotta be
too,
a
right?
win, it's gotta be a win-win too.
Yeah.
I mean, the vendor can't lose money.
No, not at all.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Okay. Any further questions on that? And on the estimate that will come in, the projections for 2021, we look like we're going to be well under the budget for the year.
Yes. Yes.
And that amount, I guess, would carry over.
Yes. Well, at 1.3 versus 1.420, yes.
Right, yep.
That's the hard work of Scott, or that is even here on vacation. I'll keep saying that.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Any further questions of Glenn, comments? Okay, we'll move on to the CDD report. Chris has a couple of things to.
I was just going to update you on the emergency access road. The agreement that Lennar wanted in place to sign the DRI application was executed. Thanks to Phil Rovner and Tony Burdette getting directly to Darren McMurray. It was held up with the attorneys for the last 2 months going back and forth and when they were going to do it. And they seem to have a direct conduit. So that agreement was signed, and I have in front of me, I'll send over today for Mr. Rittenauer's signature, and also WCI has to sign it, is that application for the DRI amendment. It's simple paperwork. It should be about a 60-day process. So that's moving forward. The design and permitting and survey is moving forward and should all be wrapped up in the next 60 days. And what we started on this week was a landscape buffer. And that is to buffer that entire Florida power easement track along Gateway Boulevard, and 2 purposes. One, to have landscape so someone can't drive over the curb on Gateway Boulevard and go around the gates and access that road. And it will also provide a secondary landscaping buffer for the folks over in Prado from Gateway Boulevard. So shield them from some of that traffic, and it'll look a little nicer looking across that open area. So we're putting together landscape and irrigation plans right now. And the last part of that is an agreement between PPCA and the district for operation and maintenance of the gates and also that landscaping, because what they have planned right now is that buffer at Prado where the fence is, splitting that. So the landscaping on the side of the emergency road, the CDD will pick that up, and the operation and maintenance cost of the gates and of the road. And that'll be a formal agreement put together. So Tony's working on that with Steve Ademczyk right now.
You mentioned something about 60 days on the DRI to get it, the application in.
Right.
And how long do we think it'll take?
Well, we should have the application in a day or 2 after it's signed, but it's about 60 days for the city to turn that paperwork around. There's nothing contentious in it at all. And that's, I'm hoping it's done in 30 or 45.
Really? I thought it was going to take longer than that. I just thought that grinding through the city bureaucracy would take a little longer, but it's good to hear.
Yeah, it's simple what we're doing with them, and the staff over there is well acquainted with what we're trying to do, and the surveys have already taken effect, and the residents support, and they're well aware of that. So once we get this application in, it shouldn't be a problem at all.
Good. Any questions of Chris on that? Okay. Anything else, Chris?
Well, I do have a proposal for a little more than $23,000 for a roof replacement and work over at the gatehouse. And I don't know if you've seen that yet. Scott sent it over to me, but I'll be happy to distribute it. But I was going to just bring that up, and I can give you all copies of the proposal. But they went out and did a examination and have some photographs here of the condition of the roof and why you're getting the leaks. But Crowther Roofing provided a proposal, and it's $23,350.
We will need to approve that at our next meeting.
We can bring that forward unless you would like to consider it today, but it's not on your agenda.
Scott, do you have any comments on that?
Yes, I just received that proposal last week, so it was after the deadline to get it on the agenda. So what we did was we had a roof inspection because of some noticeable tiles that appeared to be loose, but actually they're not loose. They're actually caving in where the plywood and underlayment has deteriorated. So the roof is 20 years old. So the contractor recommended replacement because of the condition of the plywood and some of the underlayment.
Mhm.
That's why you didn't receive it for this week's meeting.
What line item would that occur underneath, or is that out of reserves?
That would have to be out of reserves.
That would be out of reserve.
Yes, sir.
As a capital project.
It's a capital project, yeah. It sounds to me, particularly since we're in the middle of hurricane season, we might want to consider going forward with it today. And it's coming out of reserves. What do other people think?
I think if it's legal, we should do it right away.
I'm just not sure it's legal
Because
because it's not on the agenda.
Yeah. Chris, where do you come out with?
The board in the past has added things like that. It really, as long as you'd offer the opportunity for public comment, but if you'd like, you could pass it and I'll make sure with Tony, to run it by. It's not a huge expenditure. I know if it was something where we had to bid it and it was $100,000, I'd be like, no, but this is almost like a glorified maintenance job.
It's almost an emergency with hurricane season.
Well, I was gonna say one thing, if we do have a hurricane, the roofers are gonna get awful busy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I like the emergency argument. I think we can go
I think
ahead.
so. And what we could do is we could make the motion that we pass it contingent upon approval
Tony.
of the district council.
Sure.
Was that the only bid we got from Crother?
No, that was.
Yes, it was. The other roofers were not able to get out this week. So it would have to wait until possibly next week.
I saw on the news yesterday, the roofers are busier than all get out with just the storm that has blown through here with, they're saying, good luck trying to get one.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience that we woke up the morning that the storm came through and heard drip, drip, drip in our foyer.
Oh, no.
So we have a roof leak. And
Well, Crother is, they're large,
the reputation.
very good, yeah.
Very
We dealt with them in a bid with Verona, and they were pretty close to the other two bids.
Mhm.
So I don't see the need to wait for other bids.
Okay.
I agree. Go with it. You're not going to get much savings.
I feel that way.
I would entertain a motion to approve the rather.
I'll make that motion that we approve Crowther to do the roofing on the guardhouse, thank you, on the guardhouse, and that we approve it pending Tony's, the attorney's approval.
Do we want to put a not to exceed figure in there?
About $24,000 then.
All right.
Not to exceed 24,000 pending approval of the attorney. And then we get started as soon as possible.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, John seconds it. Motion by Joe, John seconds. Any further discussion? If not, I will, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, we can go forward with that then. Okay. Next thing, nothing more from Chris, I assume. Next on the thing is golf cart resolution. Did you hear anything from Tony?
I have not. I just asked Georgia to put this on the agenda so
Yeah.
that I could tell you all that after our last meeting, I sent an email to Tony with an attachment that was the language that we wanted to change that to. And I have not heard back from him, but I did get a reply email that he was going to be on vacation until July 4th. And with the tropical storm coming through, you know, he may not even have been back to work until today. So hopefully, if I haven't heard from him by next week or the week after, I'll send him a follow-up email to make sure that he saw it.
Let me just throw a little monkey wrench in here.
Uh-oh.
I've been having some second thoughts about giving everybody complete color palette. I don't know.
But did you see a bad looking,
Huh?
did you see a bad color?
There have been some bad colors. And I'm not sure, I'm a little reluctant to do that, but I'm not sure how you tone it down. I think we should give a broader palette, but I'm not sure exactly how one would do that. There are, Scott, we do have colors that are presented by Easy. Didn't we have their colors?
Yes, we did. We did have their colors, and you know, the committee just has to be aware that custom colors are coming into the marketplace. But there are basic colors, earth tones, blues, yellow, reds.
Does anybody else have any hesitation? If you don't, then I'm overruled.
I don't, are there certain colors we want to exclude or?
Well, I don't know, you know, if we don't want any bright colors, we could pick some of the easy go colors that are not quite so extreme, and say they should be equivalent to those. But I just throw that out. I'm just a little.
I feel your compassion for that. I think it'd be very difficult to try to do that, because we're going to have people trying to reinterpret or say, well, this is close or similar. Now we're letting Castle Group have to deal with that. And I agree with you, Phil, but I don't think it's possible.
And what one person thinks is wild color, someone else would not. You know, it'd be hard to get a group of 10 people to agree on who, let's just say you pick 10 colors. I bet you couldn't get 10 people to agree on the 10 colors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either that or we go with one,
Yeah,
what we've had.
Yeah.
That beige or whatever.
Well,
Yeah,
except that
yeah.
that color doesn't exist anymore.
No,
Chris,
that
do you
color
want
doesn't exist.
to come up?
someone was right. Someone's right.
Again, Chris Santos with Castle Group. Yeah, just, you know, from my experience, you know, out on the floor out there, it's dealing with this. You know, the way the language exists now as the white or beige or equivalents, again, I think there's a lot of argument that can be made as to, you know, what falls under those categories. If it was down to perhaps, you know, one color, that would be easy to enforce at this point, because we have out in the community already, you know, somewhat of a spectrum. I think that would be difficult to try to go into further restriction. You know, perhaps if there is some concern to allowing it to go, you know, anything again, perhaps the development of some sort of color wheel exhibit, you know, nothing darker or farther on the spectrum than this, nothing lighter further on the spectrum than that. I think, again, if one of the concerns is, you know, the arguments from the people when they come to get their cards registered, and exhibits to show might be the easiest, you know, way to hit the brakes on that.
I think we get into speculation.
Okay. I will, I understand, just a curiosity, somebody told me a story today that somebody had had to repaint their card. Is that correct? In order to get an approval?
Not that I'm aware
Not
of.
that
With
you're aware.
with that being said,
Yeah.
I can tell you that we had somebody come to the office some months ago with perhaps, you know, the most sky blue golf cart I've seen before. And they did not successfully register with us because of that color issue. If that individual happened to have gotten it painted to address that issue, then, you know, that would be the resolution that somebody at this point would need to pursue to be in compliance. I guess I would just add, you know, one of the pain points that we do hear from owners on occasion is if we have somebody out in the community that is non-compliant, you know, the guy down the street has a bright red golf cart, you know, why did I have to get this type? You know, again, you know, we want to hit some resolution, whatever that might be.
Well, there's no question that, and the thing that is, of course, this does not cover carts, the golf club's rules. So,
They're independent.
okay, well, I will back away, but we still have to await Tony's okay to put this through.
Are you good with an open color system, Teresa?
Oh, yeah.
You are?
I mean, my big problem, and I've
Because you're the golf cart.
expressed this before, is that as a quasi-governmental body, I don't think that it's constitutional for us to restrict the color of golf carts. But having said that, I would rather get hit with a red golf cart that had insurance than a white golf cart that doesn't.
Good point, good point.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think trying to discriminate on color is going to be a difficult problem, and somebody really wanted to push it, they could push us to the limit on that. I think open up and see what happens, hope for the best.
Okay?
And we did include that, no customized
Yes, right,
vehicles,
right,
so.
which I think is.
Yeah, that's
appropriate. Yep, okay. All right, the consensus is we want to move forward with this, but we've got to get, it isn't approved until we get the legal input. Okay. Association manager report and Securitas. Chris, you want to?
I asked Scott how he might wish to tag team this. Scott,
Yes.
I'm going to say, I don't know if there are some particular items that you wanted to cover with being in attendance here.
No, actually, that already came up with the roof replacement. So
Okay.
go ahead and proceed with the other couple items.
Sure. Whenever I first came in today, I gave you a couple of handouts. The first item is the traffic counts provided by Securitas. Covered this with our President's Council this morning as well. We have our June numbers. This is both for the resident lane and the guest lane. We've had 57,351 entries for June. This is an increase from what we saw this time last year. I would expect that with the continued growth of the community. I'm sure there's somewhere in the formula that, you know, the effect of the pandemic, but nevertheless, we have an increase. And again, as we would expect, we see a bit of a decrease as we come out of season. Back in March, we were at 94,000 entries, which is a peak for this year. And again, now we're back down to 57,000. As a quick update, I just do also want to point out, I see Danielle Harmon is actually no longer with Securitas. She had made a change. At this time, the Securitas staff has assigned an individual named Roshana Morris, who we intend on coordinating with. We haven't met her yet, but we do have a new contact with Securitas for our account with Pelican Reserve.
Do you have a spelling for her first name?
B-R-I-S-H-A-N-A. Roshana. Absolutely. That's really all I have with Securitas, unless we have any other questions that I might take a shot at answering.
Probably.
This, for that arm, is that the freeze thing where it came down and hit the top of the car?
It
And
is,
okay.
and that's, you know, what I was going to transition into next. as
Let me
far as
just,
the other choices.
mentioning Roshana would probably be a good idea to get her to come to a future meeting, so
Yes.
the committee could meet her.
We want to make sure to bring them on board properly.
Yep.
The other two
I
pieces of
just
paper
read it.
that we have in front of us are from Cypress Access, who we utilize for gate arm maintenance over at the front entry. As Doug had just mentioned, the first cover page we have here was from their inspection as to what happened with the incident with Mr. Fries. Essentially, a review of the video and the equipment found that as somebody came through the first gate arm for the resident entry where we have the trap gate system, that individual was apparently in enough of a rush that they came in through the front gate and swerved around the second trap gate on before it came up. When they did so, it tripped the system. It didn't allow it to work in the way it's designed to work. Had to wait until the gate arm cycled. Did that, it started the trap gate, the second one, started coming down as the vehicle was approaching. So the person who came in first and rushed around the gate caused it not to work the way it's supposed to work. We have a proposal provided by Cypress Access based on their recommendation that a way that we can prevent individuals from doing this is installing a larger gate arm for that trap gate entry. Right now, I want to say we have a 12-foot arm. They want to replace it with a 15-foot arm. That extra length there is going to keep a vehicle from doing what that person did and trying to speed around it.
So did they go to the left of the arm
They went to the left of the arm.
in that gap
Correct.
between the edges and,
Mhm.
wow.
So Chris, is
I have a
there any way to be assured that people would, those who have been doing that would recognize that this gate is different and longer? Could there be a warning color or something?
You know, something that we've done with our exit gates to deal with issues with visibility as you're approaching it, when the sun is on the other side, is we added these sort of, I think, call them flags. It's essentially an additional piece that we put right in the center, again, to bring to attention that there is a gate arm there. We could see about it installing something like that. There's an extra sort of visibility marker on that far end of it. You know, I know it's difficult controlling people's behavior. I would hope that they would drive safely and be aware of that sort of change.
But they wouldn't be able to go through there and cause that problem. They'd take out the 15-foot gate and they'd be the one charged to replace it.
That is correct.
Then-
As opposed to now, we had to pay to have the other car repaired.
Well, but that leads me to my question. Did the video show the license plate of the vehicle that did it? And if so, was it a resident?
I can't answer that right. I don't know the answer to that. I would expect.
I would guess it is.
I know somebody
I
who's
would
talked
do,
about doing
I
that.
would
yeah.
expect that we would have plate cam, you know, we have a plate cam there. I can't say that we reviewed that to determine the individual who came through.
Well, I just feel like this should be charged to the individual that caused the problem.
Yeah.
Well, except that this is a permanent change. Is that
No,
right?
no, no, I'm not talking about the arm. I'm
You're
talking about the
car.
$170.
No, it's 1,200, I think. Not, isn't it up to 1,200 now?
I can't tell you.
The damage on the car was $734 plus the rental car fee. Our board, the insurance company assigned 20% of the liability to Mr. Fries. He took exception of that, came to the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said if you're a walking, talking human being, you should be able to notice things like that. So we're just going to assign you 20% of the liability. And Mr. Fries took exception to that. So the board approved up to $1,000, you know, to reimburse it. So I asked him, I said, go ahead and sign the release and get the money from the insurance company. And the board authorized some payment for additional funds.
I think that's good. I would have taken exception to that too, because I've gone through there numerous times with that thing up. And as I've told this board before, I just gun it. I mean, if I could burn rubber, I would be burning rubber to go through it because it just sits there. And you don't know if it's going to come down or not come down. I just get out of that thing as fast as I can.
Well, we have this opportunity to at least partially resolve that problem. Is that right? With a new gate?
That is the intention, yes.
Or a big yellow bollard.
That also could be an option. I don't know if we would have to jump through any extra hoops
What?
to install something like that.
I would think that a precedent had already been set by paying for it the first time, for the freeze. If another car happened the same way, we pay it again. I mean, it's already been set.
Yeah.
So if this 766 would stop that from occurring, that'd only take one other car to pay that off.
Didn't we have an orange cone there for a while?
We did. I can tell you that the placement of any cones, particularly at the entrance, has been a subject of contention of many of our owners.
Well, it's a subject of contention with many of our owners that we even have a trap gate. So
Yeah.
I have a problem with spending another $766 to pay for a gate that a lot of our residents don't think should be there anyway.
Further comment?
At when the last time we voted on this, the majority of the people, it was close, but voted for the trap gate. That's a fact.
Yeah, I think it's time to take another vote. It's been a long time.
I'm with Joe.
You
It's
can't
been
put stuff up and take it down.
several years since we've taken that vote, and I think there's been a big change. But I was just looking at 48,591 people came through the resident gate in June. And if you figure just the extra time it takes to get through the trap gate, and I will tell you, I came through yesterday, and I mean, I'm good about this. I don't complain. But I stopped at the trap gate and 2 cars went through the other gate while I was waiting for that system to work. And I was thinking about how much time. Now, John, and I respect John's viewpoints on this, but he talks about it's just a couple seconds. But think about 48,591. And think about emission controls and environmental protection, and think about how many minutes.
Joe,
Just think
Where-
about how many
where-
minutes that is. that
where
you're
are these
burning gas.
people going?
Yeah,
Where
they're
are we
going
going?
nowhere.
Think about,
You know, come on,
that's
we're
a lot
not,
of hours.
we're
It
not,
is hours.
EMT's getting to a fire through the gate.
I don't disagree with that, but it's hours of time that people are spending waiting to get through there, when you can go through the other gate in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I think it's a sad reflection that we have
Of
to
us.
spend money for one person out of 48,000 people going through that line. But if we got to put a 15-foot gate on there, I think we got to put a 15-foot gate.
I
Well,
agree.
With you, Glenn, I don't understand where anybody has to go in our community so fast that they can't sit there and wait for a second gate to
And
come.
not only that, just follow the rules, people. Just follow
It's
the
not like you
rules.
have a date or
It's
you're
so-
running to a critically injured body.
You know someone else is going to do it eventually too.
So we would have to approve both the 766 and the 170. Is that it to get this job done?
No, I believe actually just the second, just the 766.
You wouldn't do the 170.
The 170 was actually an
To replace-
invoice for previous service.
Oh,
That just outlines their follow-up with us. The 76680 is moving forward with the gate arm exchange.
But I would like to know if you could find out who that person was. After the fact, I know it'd be tough. I don't know what our legal ability is to charge them for doing that, to get this other resident's car fixed.
I don't know the answer to that. I can say that
okay, we would ask that you try and find out who that is, Chris.
you got it.
I think that that may be a little dicey.
I think
agree.
it would be. I think it'd be hard to get that person to pay for something that really the other car.
Yeah.
But the gate will prevent this future.
Do I have a motion?
I motion that we do the 766, 80 and put a 15-foot gate in there. So we do not have the same issue again.
I second that.
Can we say for an amount not to exceed 800?
I don't have a problem with that.
Further discussion? Okay, I'll take, since this is contentious, I will take a voice vote on the motion. Randy?
Do you want the 15-foot gate? Do you?
Yes.
Yes. Teresa?
Nay.
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Bill, yes. Joe?
I'd like to get rid of the gate, but I'll support the.
Okay. John?
I agree with the motion.
Okay. Motion passes 6-1. Okay. Let's move on. It's on my agenda.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea.
Okay. Association manager report and Securitas. We're still, Chris, anything else for us?
I have nothing further unless we have questions we'd like to ask.
It might be worthwhile to announce, I think I'm correct in this, Scott, that the boardwalk work is still on schedule. And
Yes, the boardwalk work is still on schedule. There was a delay in the delivery of the decking, but that started to arrive last week. So we are on schedule at this point.
And again, tell us what our projected completion date is.
Completion date is, what is it, November?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are we going to incur any costs for that car that went in the pond about a week ago or two? Is there any cost going to be
Nothing
seen?
which I am aware of.
Nothing?
I have,
No, there is no cost.
Doug has a.
Oh, okay.
in his-
I now cover it, and how we proceed with that, we'll talk about.
it's in-
Okay, sorry.
That's all right,
No,
that's all right.
that's okay.
all right. Okay. Any other questions of Chris? Okay, Ponds Group report. We'll move right on.
I'll try to summarize, since if anyone wants more detail, they can read it.
Yep.
The bids, we had 6 bidders that submitted bids for the conservation area. 4 of those bidders are people we deal with today, that we have contracts with today. 2 of them we do not. So those 4, they were submitted on the 3rd. They will be opened on the 9th. And then we'll look, the current contract is woods and wetlands for 110,000. I'm expecting that we will save money on this contract going to bid. And then I don't totally understand why CDD will recommendations, and will vote on it before we have our next meeting, but I'm okay with that. But I'll still present it at our next meeting. The car that you mentioned.
Yes.
It drove in, there was no oil or gasoline contamination. Estimates are around 1,500 to replace the littorals, a few ruts in the bank, type thing. I don't know how we would pursue, but I'm looking into how we pursue against that insurance thing. But it's about 1,500.
You know, we have gotten that information in the police report, and to pull the car out, our contractor did, I think it was $500. They're the ones that were checking to make sure there wasn't any environmental pollution or any gas. But they said there were no skid marks or braking, it just.
Well, actually, he stopped on the bank, got out of the car, wasn't even wet, and the car just kept rolling.
Oh,
And
okay.
it just kept rolling all the way, and the dog was,
I heard about the dog.
yes.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't even wet. I seen him just after the police were there and stuff.
So it got 40, I had seen 45, it got 45
It
feet
just kept
out.
rolling because the banks, the slope of the thing just kept rolling. And it was probably floating. It was probably, yeah, you probably didn't have that park or emergency park.
So he had gotten out and the car kept going.
I'm
Yep.
wondering how the heck it got 45 feet in and he got out, because most
Yeah,
people
no.
drowned when that seems.
No, he wasn't even wet.
Was he sober?
No.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
You're looking into,
How do we get reimbursed for that? If we don't get reimbursed, those littorals will grow back.
oh,
Okay? I mean, it's a minor thing, but if someone caused the damage, they usually have to pay for something like that.
okay.
Okay? The GFCI circuits are all done. I'm looking at doing the health check to check every pond, every aeration, just to make sure, because we've had them all for a while, of which ones might have some issues. Let's see if I can go to the last, the back here.
I think that's pretty minor stuff. I think people could read.
Yeah.
that.
The only other thing is I did transfer $4,000 for the Tetra Tech engineering study to the other budget to cover the $4,000. But in the future, I don't know how we deal with Tony or Tetra Tech. It's a one fund there, you know, and if you're the last one in to get the money, there is no money left in that fund. Because I'm sure there's because I don't have a budget for legal, for Tony, for legal, or for Tetra Tech.
That just gets allocated to us by the.
It does, but there is a line item in Pelican's budget.
Yeah, at the higher
for
level,
engineering, right?
at the higher level. Okay, so if I go to Tony to ask for legal help or legal assistance, and you go to Tony for the golf cart stuff, they both go into the one fund. And when the money's out of that fund, it's got to come from somewhere else, you know, if we go to Tony more frequently. And that's what happened with the Tetra Tech thing.
So you ended up going to.
I just took it out of a different line item in the ponds budget and transferred it to a higher level. I actually lowered it, but I transferred that money to a higher level to cover that Tetra Tech fund.
Do we build reserves for the ponds? No, I don't think so.
It's in the, no, we do not.
All right.
We would, but we haven't in the past.
Okay.
I'd like to comment though, with after this recent hurricane or tropical storm, very impressed that we had no flooding in Pelican Preserve.
Actually, our ponds are in better shape after the storm than before because the algae and stuff with the more water gets broke up and the ponds look better.
Yes.
Than they did before the storm.
There was none on my street.
Yeah, no, we had none.
No.
The ponds are all even below a high water mark on the ponds and not anywhere near going out of the banks.
Was there flooding on Veneto Drive near the town center? My wife.
Well,
mentioned something.
the drain, yes.
There's a drain
but
issue
it-
there,
I
isn't
mean,
there?
that's a drain issue, but it drained. I mean, you know, in Cape, you see when Cape Coral, most of their, but the next day, all the water was gone.
But Doug, I had some people from Extreme Divers working in the pond up
Yep.
behind me yesterday. What was the scope of the work that they were doing? It looked like they had some long tubes, and I have two different entrances
They
and
were
the pond
clean-
40 at the end.
We have some bigger pipes connecting, all of the ponds are connected together with large pipes.
Yeah.
And the Extreme Divers are the one that cleans the muck out of those pipes. So
Okay.
to keep the drain. But there is a problem, I haven't investigated it yet, where I have to find out who did it, but someone took like a 4-wheel drive and drove in person's yard, the service a pond and put ruts through the entire yard. But I mean, that, I have to find out who did it and then go investigate.
So this work
Yeah.
by Extreme Divers goes on, I gather.
A third of our pipes are cleaned every year, so that every pipe is clean, and that's the,
Yeah.
keep the hurricane and stuff like that, so all of our pipes are cleaned, a third, so we don't have a big expense in one calendar year.
So Doug, there was a 4-wheel drive that came through and got to the end of the pond.
Mhm.
And it's on the end of Matarita.
That's
Where-
one in particular that's complained.
Okay,
Matarita
so
and Severine.
two of those neighbors, because I live right by there, two of those neighbors are gone.
Okay.
So, but yes.
But
in
there was
fact,
Extreme Divers that did that?
Yes,
Okay. You just helped me with my investigation.
yeah. They had a pretty good sized 4-wheel drive, and then they pulled a trailer. So they had some
Into the
weight
yard? Wow.
onto, yeah, right at the end of the pond.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Any other questions of Doug? Not, we'll move on to safety and security work group, and I will try and.
By the way,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
is this the way you would like a written report like this? It makes it easier for the president's group and
It
stuff like
does,
that.
yeah.
And then I use this to the same note goes communicating to my ponds group. So the same, it kills three birds with that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good.
Good summary.
Good. Yep, that's a good way to go. Um, And you, so even though you didn't make the meeting this morning, we were okay.
I get my knee operated on Monday again. Second operation, I had it replaced once already and they're going back in.
How long did it last?
I had problems almost instant. Every 3 months they drained the fluid.
Mm.
Is the new operation supposed to fix that up?
No guarantee.
Okay.
They're practicing.
Okay, we've got our speed monitoring program underway. We've told you about this. We've got 2 of these radar signs that we are placing on a schedule at various intersections and various places in the community to get an idea of how drivers are driving, you know, where there may be speeding, or we may want to consider dampening, traffic dampening efforts like the rumble strips that we've got on Veneto. So that is an ongoing thing, and we, at some point, will be able to bring you a report as to what we found. So far, I think we've discovered that a couple of places we put them, they're not that many people going over this. The speed limit that they look at is 10 miles or more as considered speeding over the limit. And the number of, the percentage of people doing that is relatively small, but of course we got an awful lot of cars, so could be a problem. We've had a lot of complaints about the traffic cones on Veneto. They look pretty tacky, and one would have to agree. Of course, they were put there to prevent cars from swerving into the oncoming lane to avoid the rumble strips. We're considering removing the cones temporarily, but we're going to have to watch that pretty carefully to make sure that people don't go back to trying to swerve into the other lane in order to miss the rumble strips. But the other thing we're doing is we are planning to put rumble strips on the other 2 places. In other words, so all the lanes are covered, so people will not be tempted to swerve to do that. And the rumble strips have definitely slowed the traffic down. We did tests before, and we've done tests subsequently, and it does help to slow them
How
down.
much did it cost for the ones would be the same cost for the second set, right?
The
first set that we put in the 2 on each
Yeah.
way. How much about was that?
Yeah, I can't.
That was $950.
Okay.
You know, we have constant people constantly complaining about speeding
Oh, yeah.
and that kind of thing. So we feel it's incumbent upon us to look at areas where we can help to slow people down. We have suspended for the summer the Fort Myers Police Department service that we've been paying for to have people come in, to have the police come in here and monitor the traffic. And I think we're going to be considering as to whether we should pick that up again in the fall. It hasn't been tremendously successful because people got the idea that they weren't getting violations, they were just getting warnings. And that word apparently got around. So if we're to do this program again, I think we're going to have some kind of agreement with the Fort Myers Police Department that they're going to be willing to give violations instead of warnings in certain cases. Because I think that's the only way to.
That's the only way you can stop it.
You know, when people get a $160 ticket, I think that
I totally agree with that.
that word gets out.
It spreads fast.
Yes, it does. So.
And we'll send Bob Geppert a personal note about that.
We have a whole bunch of safety project ideas. We always have a list of them and we're working on them slowly but surely. Safety and security group working. We are going to be, once again, putting out the, we did this about 3 or 4 years ago. Was it that long, Chris, I think?
We've done a limited run of the hot topics. 2019, early 2020, hit the brakes around the start.
Okay. These are the hot topics. These are little things to go in people's emails about obeying the traffic laws. And you think they may do a little good to make people start to think about that. That's about all I've got on safety and security work. Any questions?
I have one comment, and
Yep.
and actually, it really is for Chris. Chris, you mentioned that little flag you put on that. You don't need to come up here, I don't think. You have that extra reflector on that exit gate because of the sun. I would ask you to consider putting, they sell blue ones also. Sometimes the way the sun sets, that whole thing is invisible. And if you had a dark blue one, it would show up when it's really bright, you would see the dark little one. And I have some at home. I've put them on my mailbox. They sell yellow, red, and blue. And a little blue one at the top of that, I think would be an asset because it would show up when everything else is bright.
At the top of the flag?
At the top of the flag. I think just one little blue dot, they're about 1 inch diameter. But I think that would show up.
We could look into that.
Yeah, just a recommendation.
You thought? Go ahead, Glenn.
When you were at the president's meeting, how they feel in their neighborhoods? Is they seeing improvements with speeders, et cetera, or is it still?
Well, I must admit that wasn't discussed.
Oh, so maybe it's not
Yeah.
as hot a topic as it used to be.
The only thing is they requested some statistics on how many violations were given out. That kind of thing.
Did they talk at all about being on the board and liability after the Miami Beach collapse and the first people that are sued are the board?
No, there was no discussion.
Yeah, I attended a meeting yesterday on reserves and condo buildings. And apparently Florida has some pretty specific laws on condos that require an engineering check of the buildings if they're more than 3 or more stories high, which doesn't, the time period, I don't think affects anything in Pelican Preserve at this point. As I recall, there was something in about a 30-year period. And I'm not sure if our condo associations are aware of that. And I'm not sure, I've never quite understood the condo associations and the HOA associations and our master board and what the master board may have on influencing the condo associations, because condos fall under a different state statute.
It is, yeah.
But that might be something, Phil, that our board should look at to make sure that they aren't.
Just so they understand what their liability.
Right. But there is a time period that they are required apparently to be inspected.
I was watching the program of Fox Business before I came, and on that program was an attorney who was a real estate expert who suggested that the boards in condo associations in Florida have a lot of discretion and that perhaps some of that was going to be taken away and there would be more restrictions. So
I'm sure.
think that makes some sense.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that does in fact happen.
It's hard.
I'm sure they will tighten up the inspection regimes.
Oh, yeah. That one building that they had was supposed to have had the inspection. It was 10 years later than that and still hadn't had the recertification. They closed the building down. Yeah. So you're right. There'll be a lot closer inspection in Florida going forward.
Yeah, that might be something our board should be looking at to protect the board, actually.
Mhm. Good point. Okay, anything else on safety and security? Okay, CDD meetings. Teresa, you're going to make one?
I'm gonna go to meeting.
You're gonna do government.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I did
That's,
last.
that's the thing to do,
Mhm.
those
Yeah,
board
it's a lot
meetings, because they go,
I'll be honest, I had my wife take notes for me.
Hey,
Because I was on a different call.
you're not covered under
I had to take her out to dinner though.
your liability
I
insurance.
wonder
is
if I
no
could get
good
my
then.
husband to do that.
okay, CDD meetings in August.
I can do August 5th or 19th.
Okay, Joe, let's give you August 5th. Anybody can
Okay.
do the 19th?
I can take August 19th.
Can you take that? Okay. That'll be fun. Okay. Move on to committee member requests and audience comments.
I just wanted to make a comment that we didn't have minutes this time
Yes.
because they didn't get them to Georgia until June 29th, and she got them to me right then, but I had family visiting from the 30th until Monday, so
So we'll
I didn't get
two
to,
sets. of
yes, hopefully, if they get me the July ones promptly.
I have a
Yeah, go
question.
ahead. Yeah.
It's probably towards Scott. You know, those lights down Pelican, I've had a lot of individuals ask me why it took so long, the 3 to 4 weeks to fix the lights on the majority of a good section of Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Vento. Can you, what was the challenge to get that? Was it parts or what was it, Scott?
Actually, it was wiring. Like we experienced with the aerators for the ponds, it did take longer to find the specific fault areas and correct those.
Okay.
Okay. Further comments?
No.
We have only one audience member, and Mike, do you have any comments you want to make?
I don't, I've just been approved today.
Okay. All right. Next meeting will be August 12th. And are there any people who know now that they can't make that? I want to make sure that.
I'm going to be in Minnesota, but I should be able to
Yeah, okay.
come in on Zoom.
Mhm. Others, I gather everybody is going to be here.
Yep.
Okay, so we could still have a quorum.
Yeah, go to
Randy,
meeting,
just for
because
your
that's
information.
actually what they do is go to meeting.
Oh, go to meeting.
Go to meeting, yeah. You can check with them. And I'll give you that. Okay, any other comments? Okay,
Look at that time, Phil.
look at the
Yeah.
time.
Wow.
I wish Geppert were here.
Oh, yes. He'd have covered those page and a half of the Ponds group. It took a half hour more.
Oh, yeah, at least.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Made
Don't jump in there that quick.
Seconded by Teresa. The meeting is adjourned.
I'd like to thank all of you, though, first for sending the wonderful weather up north that we're going to be getting.
Yes. Well, you think you can escape, John, but you can't.
Where
Thank you.
John, I'm in Minnesota. I had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Where are you, John, today?
In Ocean City, New Jersey, I'm waiting for the water to rise.
I heard a rumor that's the wettest dry city in the country.
It is. We have to go across the bridge to get wet.
New Jersey.
Well, just go to across.
What he's trying to say is we don't have any liquor stores here. We're not allowed to drink.
Oh, you're dry.
Go to Summers Point.
Okay.
My refrigerator, my beer refrigerator is just as full as it is in Florida. I have 2 beer refrigerators.